This is Tamron's 28-300 F4-7.1 telephoto zoom lens for E-mount cameras, and it is brand new, and I'm here to show you what it can do. As you can see, nice and portable in the hand, perfect for travel photography or that all-round lens when you want to go super wide and super zoomed in. So how zoomed in are we talking about? This is at 300, and then we're going to edge back to 28 so you can see how wide this goes. Insane, wouldn't you say? Now let's just take another shot so you can see again from a little further away. The width that you get from this lens is exceptional. It's wonderful having it in your bag, and weighing at just over 600 grams. You can take it with you wherever you go, whether it's travel photography, whether you want to kick around lens, whether you need something that's just going to do it all for your everyday shoot. This is the ticket. The minimum focusing range on this lens is 19 centimeters. So 19 centimeters from the sensor to your subject, it holds focus. That's crazy. That's like the world of wide macro shooting. And it has VXD, voice coil extreme torque drive. Sounds insane, like it should be on the set of Star Wars, but it means you can autofocus extremely quickly on any of the focal ranges, regardless of where you're shooting and what you're shooting. So you take your focus from something close and you pump it away, and it picks up just like that. And that's been my experience with the lens, but we'll get to the images in just a moment. It also has vibration compensation. That's the VC. That enables the internal gimbal on the lens to work against the shake that might be in your hand to make sure your images are as clear and sharp as possible. And this lens produces some sharp images, let me tell you. So let me show you what this lens does. So when you put it in your camera, it starts off like this, and it extends to this length. So that's obviously at 300, and that's at 28. Comes with a lens hood that you simply unscrew, place back on really quick, clicks into place with a thread of 67 millimeters. That's from this side to this side. Helpful for when you want to know what filter to place on the lens, which is compatible with a lot of the other Tamron lenses. Makes it ideal for just having one filter for a multitude of lenses. Made of full plastic, and you have your focal ring here. It's the nice big grip, easy to take hold of, where you can go from 28 to 300 and anywhere in between. Then you have your focusing ring here, which operates in manual or DMF focusing mode. On the Sony, DMF means once you focus in with either your shutter button or your back focus button, it'll focus, and then you can tweak the focus to whatever you want here. It needs you to focus in on it first before you start moving this around, or obviously on manual focus. This is the ring you want to use to get everything done that you need to get done. There's a function button here that enables you to hold focus on whatever you're focusing on and move the camera so that which you focus on stays in focus whilst you move the direction that you're pointing your camera in. On the other side, it has a lock mechanism so you can lock it shut. Great for being in your bag so it doesn't extend and you don't risk it getting moisture here or getting damaged. On that, it's moisture resistant, not waterproof, but moisture resistant. So if you get a little bit of rain on it or drizzle, or you're shooting in the fog or something like that, you don't have to freak out. You just wipe it dry, make sure it's nice and looked after. And the lock button only works when the lens is unextended. Has round here your USB-C, which works with the unique Tamron lens calibration device that you buy separately. You plug it in there and you can calibrate the lens to do whatever you want it to do within the realms of its specifications. Here is the bayonet metal finish for you to have a look at, just so you can see the full gamut of this lens. All right, now we're going to get into some images. I'm going to talk you through some of these images so you can see what this lens is capable of. I shot some of them on the A7R2 and some on an A7R4, so you can get a bit of a feel for the difference. And I'll talk about some of the extra benefits of this lens as we go through. So let's get into those images. If you pay attention right to the bottom, you'll see the settings of the lens that I use. But this is the first one I took with this lens, and it's of the city, unedited, but I really like. Let me just zoom in on this. This is 100% zoom in. Look how clear that is. It really picks up the details from a long way off. I then went to 300mm, and like, look at that. It was a hazy day, but that's picked it up really, really well. To the point, it's also picked up the clarity of this tree. Behind me there was this beautiful building, and this lens is ideal if you want some architecture shots, both close up and nice and wide, as this photo shows. Again, really clear. Then there was this little wallaby that was cruising around, and look how sharp that is. This is on the A7R2 to a much older camera. Then we went to this dog park. That's the ball splashing into the water and the dog chasing after it. Not bad for 300mm at 7.1 at 1/640th of a second. Pretty happy with that. Then we had this dog rock up, and look at this. I just put the camera down to about knee level and fired this off. Look at the clarity. Look at that. It's picked up all the details. You even see the little beauty of his nose there. So it focuses really, really quickly, picks it up nice and quickly. And then I asked my boy to come over, have a look at the detail of these eyelashes. Look at that. It's crazy. And you can see all of this is in focus. The reason eyes are difficult to get in focus is because they act like a glass window. So you have to refocus in for the eyes because they sit behind a reflective screen. But that's just really, really good detail all across the board and shows the minimum focusing distance. So that was on 207 mils, and I was actually really quite close to him, and it came up really, really sharp. Then I wanted to look at the sunburst. So this is at 32, an f-stop of 32, folks. That's how far the f-stop goes up. And then I just reduced that down to 20, then to 13. These are unedited. Then down to 8. And even at an f-stop of 8, you get a decent sunburst that you could write home about. Then we tried for some detail, see how it picked out his face with a clear, closer object, and it did really, really well. And again, with a lot of detail, given that's at f8, should mean that most of his hair, is all in focus, even the back parts right there. But you can have a look at the bokeh. So this is a bokeh at f8, and he would have been a meter or two away from me. And look at the bokeh. So that's how blurry it gets in the background. Again, held up a pine cone. If we put an edit on that, it looks really nice. But look at that blur. So this is 6.3. Look at the clarity of that. And then his hand starts to be in blur at 6.3. So it's even effective. Sometimes you think, oh, because a lens has such a high aperture rating, you think, oh, I'm not going to get anything good out of it. But look at the blur you can get out of that. Really quite exceptional, especially when it comes to faces and portraits as well, such as this, popping it off the background. A little bit of bark, close up on that. Then I turned it around at 28mm. I shot up at the trees. This is an f14 at 1/60th. ISO's 800. Settings weren't ideal, but I just turned it upside down and seen how it went, and I actually like that. Looks really cool, the width of it getting these trees in. We're in a pine forest, that's why it ended up like that. Then this dog swims over, nail the dog, come on, love that shot. And just the quality and clarity around that. You can see the waves and the water splashing, the dog, his whiskers, the ball, his eye. It's all looking really good, and that's an f-stop of 10. So allows the light in. Even at ISO of 800, the lens handles this really, really well. Then this is cool. I set it on autofocus and I tracked the dog, and look how well it did this. So I'll zoom into 100 and then I'll just track it along as I did. So as I went along, look at this. Classic. Love that look. But you see, it's not distracted by the water. It doesn't lose focus and go on the trees or the grass in front. It seems to hold the focus of the dog even while he's moving around and carrying on to the point when he's finished, and it's nice and clear. Then the dog went a long way away, and look, it just holds that even though he's a fair distance away. So the 7.1, which is the minimum aperture you can get on 300mm, allows for what you're shooting to be nice and crisp and clear, and that which around to blur away slightly, enabling your subject to become more prominent in the shot, which is really what you want. And there he goes, he has another shake. And again, the lens does really, really well on the A7R2 to pick that up. There's another dog shaking here. That's a little bit dark, but if we put an auto on that and zoom in, look at the detail of the moving dog and the water splashing around. Really, really like it. Sorry about all the dogs. All right, we'll move on. I did a bit of panning. So the panning was on 1/5 of a second, an f-stop of 32. ISO's 50. It was a bright day, but look at this. This is just like ideal. I'm not sure who that lady is, but thank you for pausing. Just the perfect panning shot. So great, this is middle of the day, really bright sunshine, and with an f-stop that goes as high as 32, it means you can actually not have to re-edit these, because often these photos, when you take them in panning, they are really blown out. You have to pull them back and you don't get back all the detail. This is unedited, look at that, unedited. Then there was a guy cutting the grass, so I just allowed for him to move and the background to stay classic, and then I swept it around and followed him as the background moves, which you do on continuous shutter. It came up really well. Then what does it look like when you just want to capture your kids playing sport or capture them just running around enjoying themselves? Well, this is Haim, and it came up just a little bit soft on the focus. Let's go to the next one and see. We're getting sharper, and look at the action. So his boot was moving, but his face is pretty still. I would actually suggest shooting kids on about 300th or up, but this one was 250. So let's have a look at the sharpness. That's getting sharper. The ball has a lot of movement to it. He is quite stable, and his foot is moving from his knee. Good technique right there. And this is him kicking the ball. This is at 2/50th of a second. Ball's blurry. He's nice and clear. So it gives those sort of effects. It was right near the airport, so this plane comes in. Look at the clarity out. That plane was belting in. I took a bunch of images and just click, 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 click as it tracked in from much smaller to much bigger. This was just the middle one that came out, and was really happy with the result of that shot. And then a bird flew past. Look at this. This is 60th of a second at f11, which is good for panning, but it gets the detail of his eye, but the movement of his wing. So that's what this lens is capable of doing as you experiment through the f-stop range. This is just a nice sunset that we had and some of the colors that could be picked out, and so you can use this lens to take really beautiful shots. You can have a photo like this and you can put an edit on it and pull up some beautiful colors that are in the sky if that's what you're after. Then we went out the next day and took some photos of some kangaroos. Now the ISO is 8000. The light was really, really low. It's on 7.1 at 400th of a second. That's not too bad for such a high ISO rating. Then I went to a bit of macro action. So look at this macro. Remember how I said the minimum focusing distance of the lens? Well, just look at the detail in this beautiful little flower. And if I go across, these were also in the plane of focus. So they came up really, really nice. Then there were these two kangaroos having a punch on. Now, one was red, one was grey, and they were going at it. And look at just autofocus, boom, 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 boom. And then one of them ran off, and it even nailed the running off with the autofocus. Now these images are taken on the Sony A7R4. This was a guy running, so I slowed down the shutter speed to 1/13. But I love how it's got the detail of his face, and then the rest of him's blurred as if he's running fast. I perhaps moved the camera downward rather than acrossward when I moved with his movement. Then look, I like this because with the manual focus, it could pick up the kangaroo hiding in the bushes, even though there was tons of things that wouldn't allow the autofocus to work. But when you put it on manual focus, it goes really, really well. Then we have this photo where that little character's in focus and looking good, looking sharp. The ISO is not the best thing in the world, but not the worst thing. And there's another kangaroo in the background, so I just like that for its arty appeal. Two of the guys that I go shooting with, they're both in focus on a f-stop of 11, but I'm a long way away and shooting on 300, so I would have been maybe 500 meters away from that. Remember I was telling you about planes before? Just want to show you this plane. So it stays in focus all the way through. It moves around because the plane was moving really quickly and I was moving around, but we're shooting like 20 frames a second. It's smashing it off. It's catching every single photo in focus. And so when it comes to autofocus, the capabilities of this lens are exceptional, and look at the sharp results it gets you as you're tracking a very fast moving object, even through the trees. This is black water and the nice reflection from that, and even more so on this if you focus on the background by using the manual focus. Whilst you've got the auto on, as I described before, you can get these sort of results, and so you have the algae here framing that which is of more interest. And if you think, oh, it's not a great photo, but if you brighten this up, it actually can look really quite enticing and effective. And what I'd probably do is just select this middle area and then I'd invert it. I'd take that down. And so I'd have something like that. Really quick edit while we're chatting today, but that's how I look at that, which brings out more focus in here and just has an interesting way of looking at it. I can then turn it around if I want to really confuse people about what on earth is going on. I had another sunburst. This is of 18. Look how many bursts or rays of light you have coming out of that. If you bring the aperture down to say an 8, you get less, and if you push it up, you get multiples. So you see how it's got one, but you might have several coming out of there. This is just a landscape shot. It's a little bit blown out. That's on f13, and obviously if I apply an edit to that just like that, it comes out as a really nice shot. And I love the way the lines of the light are cutting through it from one side to the other. Finally, I did a vignette test, and this is the vignette test, and honestly it has such little vignette, it's hardly worth talking about. I'm just smashing through these, and we're looking at the corners. Is it dark in the corners? And I found that it's most susceptible to being dark in the corners when it's most zoomed in at 300 or most zoomed out at 28. Even then, it feels like it's a negligent difference that you really don't need to worry about whatsoever. And I just want to show you this. This is the only image I was able to take that had any sort of lens flare, and I'm looking directly into the heart of the sun to get that. That's because of the special coating on the front of the lens that decreases the amount of flare you can expect from a lens by absorbing some of that rogue light. Very exciting new gear from Tamron in the 28-300. Let me know down below if you think this lens is for you. I want to say thank you to Tamron for partnering with me, trusting me with this release and your new lenses. I'm very excited to be able to bring these to you. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to expand on them from my personal experience. I've got to send this lens back. Wish I could keep hold of it, but nope, it's got to go back. It's just a borrow. But I hope this video has been helpful for you, and you can see if this is the lens for you. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.